my fellow Americans, are we reaping our harvest of greed? Have we built our house on sinking sand? Why are we being ugly Americans?
And it's our goal here to keep us up to date on what is happening and what we're facing. I call it the end game. Who's doing it, what they're doing, so that we are up to date. And then how can we fight back? What can we do to protect ourselves? What can we do to help ourselves keep our homes, keep our money, keep our society, and blossom into the great transition? What is that next paradigm that's got grassroots all over the planet? So, you know, it's sort of a mix. We got to look at reality, but it's not over yet. And it's not going to be over. We're turning the tide. So that is one of the pluses that I'm bringing to you guys today. It is truly, it's going to be choppy and rocky. It's not ever going to be smooth like we would wish. But nevertheless, people are coming up and stepping up and doing the difference. And it's about all of us connecting. So we're going to talk about, you know, what that end game is. We know who's doing it. I've got some articles, you can read through them. And what can we do? There's a call. David Icke is calling us to expose this. We've got to share this with everybody we talk to. At the very minimum, they will have heard it. You will be planting a seed. They may completely reject it, but they won't forget it. And after they hear it again from another source and again from another source, we've got to just keep planting the seeds, because the seeds will grow, they will germinate. People will start to recognize, well, golly, maybe there is a different way of looking at this news. And that is part of our daily activity. We can do that just as we go about our life. I'll share a little bit about what I did yesterday with you about that. And then I want to show you the economic signs, talk through what I still see coming, some verifications of the things we've already talked about. And again, if you really are questioning what we think is coming, what we can do to prepare, May 28th, just go watch that video. That will be very helpful, because it'll take off your rose-colored glasses and you'll see the big picture. We're the big picture, and then the focus. We have to really focus on how can we keep our homes. And so there's some really good court decisions, some legislation, some articles that are coming out, some ways that we're discovering others are actually getting some success. And I use that term advisedly, because at some point, success means you've just delayed the auction. Any delay is a success, but it's not the ultimate success. What we ultimately want, of course, is to keep the houses. How we can actually get that, I mean, we're working towards there. How can the people that have already lost their homes, that get shoved out unceremoniously and illegally, how can they get their houses back? How can they get restitution? We're working on that. It's an ongoing problem, and because we're not getting good support from the Department of Justice, then it makes it much more difficult for the people, because we have to fight back some other way when we can't get those that are supposed to be fighting back for us fight back. So anyway, what I want to start with is the call to action, because that is going to set the tone of everything we talk about today. He says a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention and help you and myself start mulling over. What exactly can we do? How can we do these things that he is asking and expecting us to do? So let's listen to David Icke. He's addressing thousands of people that showed up at the Bilderberg protest. Turns out that the Bilderberg is sort of like the really secret endgame conference that these people, they're going to call themselves the movers and shakers. We're going to call them, the ultimate elite, who want to control the rest of us and create this endgame that we've talked about, where it's one world currency. They control every action. They know everything about you, and we're all basically slaves to their control. So the first thing that encourages my heart greatly is that there were thousands of protests. Yes, and it's exposed. This was a conference from the 6th to the 9th of June. It is no secret anymore. And when secrets are exposed, they lose a lot of their clout and effectiveness. And that's a very big positive thing for us. So let's listen to David. He has an excellent commentary here.
There's three things that are vital to the few controlling the many. One is to keep the many in ignorance of what they're doing. That is now being put right by the alternative media and the communication of this information. A second one is the population being kept in acquiescence, the many kept in acquiescence to the few. That's the next one we need to sort out. Stop acquiescing. We need to come together and have a mass, non-violent, non-cooperation campaign the world over in which we refuse to cooperate with our own enslavement. Because only if we refuse to cooperate with our own enslavement is it possible for the few to do this to the many. And there's the third thing they absolutely desperately want. And that is divide and rule. They cannot do it without that. And look at it. We divided as a world on the fault lines, the manufactured fault lines of religion and culture and race and all the rest of it, and income bracket. And, you know, they're picking each section off while the other one looks the other way and says, it's not my problem. Well, a man said something like this after the Nazi years in Germany. First they came for the Jews and I was not a Jew, so I did nothing. Then they came for the communists. I was not a communist, so I did nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists. I was not a trade unionist, so I did nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. That is what they're doing now. Oh, it's the Muslims. Let's demonize the Muslims. Let's demonize the poor. Let's demonize people with one bedroom too many when they're on benefits. Let's demonize everyone. Turn the rest of them against them, and when the demonized ones have been picked off, then we'll come for you. This is what is happening, and we need to come together. Open the heart, open the mind, irrespective of religion, race, I don't care. We are all one consciousness having different experiences. Now we have got to the key. And the key is that we are infinite awareness, all the same consciousness having different experiences, but we have to be persuaded and manipulated by what that represents, that we are just our name, our body, and our life story. We are not. They are experiences. They're not who we are. When we identify and self-identify with name, income bracket, a life story, etc., we see the world and ourselves in terms of little me. I'm just little me. I'm just Joe Bloggs, Fred Jones. Who am I? What can I do? But when you get to that point where you expand your awareness, you expand the memory of what we already know, then you realize there are no little me's. There's only a perception, here we go again, of little me. And we must keep that perception if we're going to be controlled by the few. We are infinite awareness, all that has been, ever can be, and ever anything can be. The same single awareness. We need to stop fighting each other and come to this conclusion. If we're one consciousness, then anybody else's injustice becomes our injustice. No more looking the other way. You know, it's so simple. If you see a problem, you can try to find a solution to it. We're drowning in those blooming things. So why don't we do the sensible thing, which is to remove the cause of the problem? The cause of the problem is we have been having our perception programmed into little me, and we've forgotten that we are infinite awareness. All that it can be, is, and ever will be. Therefore, to remove the cause of the problem, we start to self-identify again. Who is I? What is the I? No, it's not Charlie Jones. It's infinite awareness, infinite power, infinite love, infinite capacity to dictate our own reality instead of having it dictated to us. This is the power we have. We have the power. That's a house of cards. The people it's manipulating, silly sods, are the ones that are holding it up there. We need to stop doing that, and there'll be a very loud bang, and it will be over. And this is a major, major step to that loud bang. We're reaching now. You know, I don't quote Churchill very much for many reasons, but one thing he said, I think it was in 1942 at the State of the War, he said, "This is not the end, nor even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning." I suggest that this moment marks the end of the beginning. And that beginning has been to bring vast numbers of people, and that needs to continue, my goodness, into an awareness that the world was not like they thought it was, and it's not run by forces that they thought it was run by. That's now reached clearly a point all over the world, and my goodness, I can tell you because I work on it all day, the bloody graph is going skywards in terms of people waking up to their true nature. And now, along with continuing that, we need to go to stage 2. And that is to cease to acquiesce and cease to submit with that which we're now aware of. No more fear of authority. No more fear of anything. And you know, people in uniform here, you know, people in uniform here, you have children and grandchildren that are going to have to live in the world that I'm describing, and that which you are protecting. Not that it needs to be, we don't want any problem, but we don't do what they do there. We don't manipulate the world to more slaughter and more control and more imposition of the will of the few on the many. You've got to start to realize that you are part of us, and start to break down those barriers and stop working for your children and grandchildren's own enslavement by keeping these people from the public eye. I say that to soldiers, troops, you're going abroad to lands with brown faces and you are devastating them, not for your country, but for those that are controlling your country, dictating to your country, and seeking to enslave your country for your children and grandchildren. Put your weapons down. Refuse to do it. This is the next stage where we stop playing a part in the enslavement of ourselves. But you know, there was a mantra song that I came across a long time ago, which just had 4 lines, so appropriate now. It went, we are the power in everyone. We are the dance of the moon and the sun. We are the hope that will never hide. We are the turning of the tide. And so we are. And it's so clear today that that tide is starting to move. And this is the last thing I'll say in terms of where we're at, to put it in perspective. We here outnumber the 140 by a very large margin. Let's just visualize that. People here in front of me massively outnumber the 140 who are orchestrating the direction of the world on behalf of masters that they are terrified of. Now, take this and imagine 7 billion people, and those 140 are doing that to them. What did I say? What did I say earlier? The world is mad. The world is a complete inversion of itself. And what we need is a peaceful, non-cooperative campaign. The non-comply dance, as I call it. Peaceful because we ain't joining them. You can have revolutions, and history is littered with them, where violent revolutions remove a tyranny, and what follows is another form of tyranny. You do not create a peaceful society, a loving society, a caring society, and a just society with violence. We can do this peacefully, and we have the numbers. As the poet Shelley said, rise like lions after slumber, with unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew. Wish in sleep have fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few.
Inspiring, really inspiring, and very true and accurate. We must have a non-violent non-compliance. We have to withdraw and cease. He said, cease to submit to self-enslavement. So I'm going to, these are going to be catchwords. We're going to continue to talk about that because they've enslaved us with the money, with the loans. This is why we're losing our homes to foreclosure. We've been enslaved with their toxic loans, with their schemes to take us and take our assets and our wealth. And so I really encourage you to think along with me as we look at, economic signs. I'm going to bring this to your attention so that you can keep up with what's going on. A lot is going on, but I loved what he said. I do believe he's probably right. This is the end of the beginning. There's been a massive starting to be an awareness of what is going on. We need to push that awareness every way we possibly can, because as more and more people become aware that, again, foreclosures are fraudulent. They're based on illegal penal code type recorded documents. When people hear that, they may not believe you. I say that all the time to just strangers in the store when it comes up. Hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm fighting illegal foreclosures. Oh, by the way, did you know that every foreclosure is based on illegal, forged documents? And they go, really? Really? Well, they may not believe me. And that may be it. That may be the only seed that I've planted. But something's going to happen in their life, and they're going to hear something again, and now they're going to be sensitized to that. So we need to keep that awareness out. Keep talking. Sharing this awareness, sharing these links. So here, quickly, I wanted to get this link into the comment section because this is a research that was done in 2011 that found, I've heard it before, but I had never seen the link. So here it is. 147 companies formed a super entity within the group, controlling 40% of the group's wealth. And so the study is the first look at 43,060 transnational corporations and the web of ownership. Remember, it's the corporate shell game. I talk about this a lot. B of A created wholly owned subsidiaries. A corporation turns it into a bank called Recon Trust. It's a wholly owned subsidiary. Yet Recon Trust is the foreclosure trustee and does all these robo-signed foreclosure documents. Bank of America, of course, supposed to be the lender of question. It's actually a servicer, master servicer, and has absolutely no rights to foreclose. And so what they do? Well, let's create a wholly owned subsidiary. Oh, here's another one. They create another wholly owned subsidiary, Ocwen, offshore servicers. B of A sells to Ocwen, wholly owned subsidiary, all of the servicing and ownership rights and loan modification rights. They can do that? Turns out. And so now Ocwen, who's offshore, out of reach. So they're playing the corporate shell game Here is the link for that. Here's 2 or 3 quick links for Bilderberg. You need to read these articles. Here's some pictures. These are the key players that carry water for, like David pointed out, some real mega thugs that these people are really afraid of. And they've been incented. You're gonna be at the table. We control the planet, and this is our plan, and you're gonna be at the table. And so it's both greed but fear. You know, blood in, blood out. It's like a gang. You got to kill somebody to get in, and the only way you get out is getting killed. And this is the fear. They don't even have to say it. Everybody just knows it. And this is part of the reason why whistleblowing is scary. It's really scary business. Here's another article about the dam breaking, and that's the privacy, the secrecy of Bilderberg is broken. And the global elite have been trying to keep it secret because it's much easier to work in secret. So now we've got protesters, we've got articles about it. You can go to Alex Jones and you've got some interviews about how he's trying to break this secrecy. The fact is, and this I thought was really important, it wasn't really emphasized, but I thought it was key. These players that are going to this conference, take a look at these pictures right here, okay? These people have an oath to their governments to not be doing this. They're not supposed to be meeting in secret behind closed doors with others to collude in doing anything. It's supposed to be public. So it doesn't matter if you're England or United States or Germany. These people have given an oath to you and me that they're not going to do this. And so what do? They go off and do this. Is this treasonous? You and I would probably say so. Could it be proven that in a court of law? Who knows? Was there any? I don't know. But this is the point. And I thought that was a major point that we might be able to leverage to crank some of the pressure up. Because in the end, that is not going to be the solution. The solution is taking back the power to the people and growing a new paradigm. It's transitioning out of centralized control into diversified control. The rise of the cities. I just read an article about that today. How there's a vacuum now because the federal government is so locked. They can't do anything. So cities are rising up. I'm going to show you an article about that. So here's another article about how privacy is gone on Bilderberg, and that's a good thing. This is starting to be maybe the end of a beginning. Now we've got to really push and get into some of that transition phase. And of course, it's not just meeting in private, but it's doing all the behaviors in private. And so, of course, we've got the whistleblower telling The Guardian, telling Washington Post, exposing all of the efforts on the part of the U.S. government to destroy privacy worldwide. I'm sure you've been paying attention to that, have seen this, that, and the other. I just want these links in the comments so that they can be looked at, viewed. You can listen to these speeches and little video exposés. But I also wanted to bring to you that Anonymous has leaked more PRISM-related NSA docs. And don't for a minute think that they're not listening to what we say. Everything we say and do is recorded. The end. That is how it works. And we need to understand that that is what's happening. So when people step up and say, like Obama, don't pay any attention. That's nothing. Oh, the fact that they have like 1 million square feet that they're collecting all this, that's nothing. Just forget about that. You know, move along, nothing here. Sounds like the Star Wars Jedi Masters. And so here Obama is trying to tell our college students, these are kids now that I see in the store. You know something? I'm starting to talk to people in the store. I'm starting to talk to everybody because it is, first off, I believe it, and it is imperative that we wake people up, even if they don't want to hear it. Don't tell me, they say. The fact is, they're here. They better hear it now. It's certainly better hearing it now than when somebody knocks on their door and jerks them out to some FEMA camp. So really, now is the time to spread the awareness, to actually warn your kids, our family, friends, and neighbors about government tyranny, because it is government tyranny without a doubt. Now, I love this article, and this is from NBC News, and the fact is, it's making the labels, the party labels, it's proving what we've been saying for a long time. Don't pay any attention to Republican and Democrat and Independent Progressive. Those are just labels. Forget that stuff. What's really important is, whose side are they on? Are they on the thug cartel banksters that are going to control the planet endgame thing? Or are they for the people? And so here, I've highlighted what I thought was really cool. You've got a libertarian favorite, Rand Paul. He's Republican, and he's standing with liberal Democrat senators Jeff Merkley of Oregon and John Tester of Montana, and they're criticizing this collection of data. Can the FBI or the NSA really claim they need data scooped up on, they say tens of millions. Are you kidding? It's 300 million. Are you kidding? They're going to scoop it up on your baby if they're calling on a cell phone. They're going to scoop up everything. They already are, and have been for years. But in the meanwhile, you've got Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is standing with Dianne Feinstein, Democratic Senator of California, defending the collection of this telecom data. So I think each one of us needs to start telling all of our providers, Google, whichever provider you've got. If you're on Facebook, tell Facebook. Every provider you've got, we need to send out emails and say, you cease and desist. We do not want you to do this, and send it to all of your elected representatives. We are led to believe, and now who knows? Who knows? I'm going to show you some other stuff on foreclosures, that what you're reading in the newspaper may not be true. Gee, what a concept. Because maybe those articles were written by somebody who had like a different agenda, like keeping the public, in a fog, keeping those frogs in that pot so we can keep cranking up the heat and cook them. And so we need to verify and to let everybody know that we don't like this. We don't like this. In fact, I read something, I wasn't able to find the article. Rand Paul is talking about a class action lawsuit against NSA. And I said out loud, if he files a class action, I want to be part of it. Why don't we have like a 300 million person class action lawsuit against the federal government and against these policies and against the NSA? Oh yeah, and gee, we might as well add the FBI and the CIA for all the false flag and suckering these other terrorists, creating terrorism so that they can use these rules to control us. Let's think about that. I like that idea. And here's some more danger signs. I need to point this out to you. The military has granted itself the power to police your street. So, just like we saw in the Boston and Waterford video clips and conversations and eyewitness testimony of the people that live there, they're going to come to your door front here pretty quick. And unless we step up and fight back now, when they come for us, there won't be anyone else to help us. It'll be too late. Of course, more whistleblowing, more freedom of information coming out, more people starting to waken up and going, wait a minute, are you telling me now that classified documents reveal that the CIA drone strikes often killed unknown people? What is wrong with that picture? And I personally have just been shocked for years that there has not been a humongous outcry amongst the rank and file Democrats of how Obama has usurped that party and is just expanding the drone murders. They're murdering these people and they don't even know who they are. Is it any wonder that we're just this one act is creating terrorism worldwide? My God, what if they had a drone? What if some drone flew over your city, dropped some bombs, shot into your house, killed your family, and you were left alive? You better believe you'd be a terrorist, quote terrorist. You'd be fighting back. That's so unjust. It is wrong. It is immoral. It's well, we need to make it illegal. They're changing the laws to make some of this stuff legal. And that's what's insane. It's completely Pandora's out of the box, and we need to stop that. Here, now quickly, back to the economy. I've been telling you that the predictions we've been able to snag that we feel have some validity to them are that the money system is going to collapse, and the reason we say that is because we know the end game is a one world currency. We know they want to control everybody and make us all slaves. We know they want to own the entire planet. We already know they have been breaking countries with exploding debt, and then, well, we'll refinance, except, okay, you got to give us all your oil or other assets that this country has. So they're breaking the smaller countries, are trying to break the United States. So since we know this, we know that's their end game, and we talked, a couple weeks ago about how as they break the markets, that will ruin your wealth. If you're in that market and you're expecting money there, it will be gone. So this is what the Japan's bond market looks like. And I wanted to show it to you as just a sign of, see, we're not making this stuff up. This is something that we need to really consider. And if you're in the bond market, you might think about getting out. So prior to September 2012, the Bank of Japan had already launched 8 QE, quantitative easing efforts. They're trying to do the same thing the Federal Reserve is doing here, equal to over 20% of Japan's gross domestic product. And throughout the period of this money printing, Japan's rate of GDP growth fell while its unemployment rate barely budged. They use the unemployment as an excuse. It's just an excuse. It has nothing to do with that. And actually, it probably hurts it. So this didn't deter the Prime Minister from believing that QE was the answer to Japan's woes. But look at what happened here. Look at this line. Sure enough, in April 2013, the Bank of Japan announced a massive 1.4 trillion QE program, either to another 24%. They are literally just blowing fake fiat credit at the problem. And the Nikkei experienced one last blow-off before collapsing. It's wiped out all the gain. Notice how it's broken the trend line. And so this is how the markets burst. And remember we said it'll start in Japan, it'll flow over to Europe, it'll come to the US. So just a word to the wise. Start paying attention, start recognizing what these are for. These are warning signs, and we have time. We have time, and we can continue our efforts of awareness. Now, this is just on the gold. This is a warning. This is from a registered investment advisor, and he and all of his clients were told by a bullion bank they had to get out. You got too much gold. You have too many precious metals. I don't want to handle this for you anymore. So move someplace else. And so they tried. And it's very, very difficult. And what he's explaining in this article, and this is the key thing, he said finally they found another place, another custodian for the metals. They didn't want to keep it in their house. You got to keep it somewhere. How do you do that? And so every time they requested a transfer, he and his clients, they were rejected for a whole bunch of, for basically same reasons as the first one said, get out. But when they finally found someone, what he found is that all of the metals which have variable weights, like 1,000 ounces of silver, 100 ounces of gold, 50 ounces of platinum, when the old broker-dealer finally does the transfer to the new custodian, none of those bars are the same weight or serial number as on the client statements. The old broker-dealer is having to come to me and my clients with bars of different serial numbers and weight than the one listed on the statements, or from old trade confirms. It means this is a mismatch. In other words, they claim they had that serial number bar and that weight, and they didn't. And it proves to him that the old broker-dealer never had the metals. Does that sound like a Ponzi scheme? Does that sound sort of like, the fake statements? Heard that before? And that now these broker-dealers, BDs, are having to go acquire them to make good on the client transfers. And it says he was a broker at Morgan Stanley in 2006 when Morgan Stanley got busted for excessive storage fees, and it turned out they never owned the metals that were printed on client statements either. So the metals are a huge Ponzi scheme. If you have, I highly recommend, if you have statements from a broker dealer that you have gold or silver on file, you might want to transfer it to another custodian. You might want to go take actual shipment. Just a word to the wise. They've been playing games for years on the gold and silver, on the actual physical metals. That's why I'm recommending, you know, what we recommended. You can go back and look at that. Go get yourself some legal tender 1985 gold and silver coins at your local coin store while they're still there. Now, on the market, on real estate, I want you to understand that my predictions, my looking at the market is no doubt 6 months to a year in advance of what will probably happen. We're still in an up climb. There's still swirl. Prices are climbing. But I'm telling you, they're going to come down. It's so hard to predict when. But here we have another article. Investors are cooling on REO to rent. That means if hedge funds, and here's what this means. As hedge funds look at tenants, toilets, and trash and say, gee, this isn't as lucrative as I thought. And besides, it's really complicated. I have to own, 100,000 homes, or I could just get some stock instead. And stock is so much easier because I can just, I can transfer 100,000 shares just like that. You can't sell 100,000 homes just like that. Real estate is a much slower, physical kind of market. And so as investments and hedge funds go, don't think so. Think either I'm not going to buy, I'm going to slow down buying, I'm going to start selling. As those attitudes shift, and they are shifting because prices have climbed, and so now they're saying, well, gee, I can't buy anymore. It's too high. It doesn't make sense. So just from the market going up from their activity pushes them out. As the market falls, and it might hurt the economy, then we can expect them saying, I think I'm going to go back in the stock market because it looks better. They're not looking at the future like we are. And so as prices come down, then that's going to shift people's psychology. And there's just going to be more turmoil. You need to understand, so that's why I'm encouraging everyone, including myself, let's look real seriously on every real estate asset you own and consider getting out of the market at a high. Now's the time to get out at a high if you can. And pull those assets in, pull that equity in, and look at where else it might make sense to put that equity instead of in real estate, and wait for the market to cool before you reinvest in real estate. Just a thought, word to the wise, pay attention to it. Keep looking at markets in your own area, and in fact, one of the ways to do that is to look at how many properties have sold in the last 2 or 3 months. You can go to Trulia, how many houses sold in your city, because every market in real estate is a micro market. Some markets were never devastated. Others have been crushed because they had all these toxic loans. So start paying attention for yourself if this is something that you need to watch out for your assets. Now, the rise of the cities, talked about it. Here's the rise of a city. Iowa City says, you know something? This stuff really sucks. So we're going to ban drones. They're banning traffic cameras, and they're banning license plate readers. And they're saying, we are sick of modern surveillance technologies. Does that sound familiar? And so here's a small town who can get to their city council. They're on board. It's sort of a small town like O'Brien did at Lynn, where he said, we've got so many foreclosures, they're all fraudulent. Help me do an anti-foreclosure ordinance, and he got that passed. So if you're in a small city, you have a good chance of swaying more public opinion with your efforts. So keep up the efforts. It's the rise of the cities and the counties. That's coming up. So let's always put our effort locally. It doesn't hurt to let our state legislatures, our federal legislators know that we're not happy with this. We want them to stop that. We want them to support, stopping surveillance and cutting back government tyranny. But the So that's the fighting off, but the effort and growth is local. So as we do these local things, I'm going to talk about them real soon here. There's some really exciting things that are coming to pass. I want you to understand what they are as we research how we can bring them more in effect in our local cities and our local lives. Oh, and of course, here's just for your information, some of you are probably more paranoid than others about surveillance. And so this is just a link. You're welcome to look at this link after the show. I'm not going to go into it, but this is tricks from privacy experts, how to keep your conversations private. Some of the things that you can do. You can already do a whole lot that most of us are not doing. So take a look at that. This is some self-protection, because again, it's like if the plane is starting to go through a rough ride and you want to, you have children in the plane with you, you put on your own oxygen mask and then you help the kids. So we protect ourselves, right? And then we're going to try to save others. Now, some things that are passing and some real positive things. Here's the Florida House of Representatives. This was approved by the governor on June 7, 2013, and this is about mortgage foreclosures. This is some help for each of us in Florida fighting foreclosures. And there's a ton of people there, and they've got rocket dockets, and it's just really a mess. But this specifies the required contents. Now remember, in Florida, they're judicial, so the bank sues the owner becomes a defendant in a foreclosure lawsuit. So the bank files the complaint. So in Florida, this law now specifies what is required, the contents in that complaint seeking to foreclose on certain types of residential properties with respect to the authority of the plaintiff. That means, does the bank have standing on the note and the location of the note? So now Florida law requires the banks in their complaints, in filing the foreclosure complaint, must have contents, specified contents, proving they have the authority to foreclose, on which note and where that note is located, and it authorized sanctions, punishment. This is fines, punishment, hopefully penal, but probably not, probably monetary, against the plaintiffs who fail to comply with these requirements. So if you're facing foreclosure auction in Florida, please explore this. I just saw this yesterday, and I'm not a legal expert, you know that. I'm just a voice trying to spread out the news and the awareness in protection of everybody on the planet, plus specifically trying to help people in specific situations how they can protect themselves and others in that state or that locale. And so here, it sounds very similar to me about the Homeowner Bill of Rights. You have to have this information, and if you don't, there's going to be sanctions. In California on the Homeowner Bill of Rights, they don't file a complaint, a lawsuit. It's just different. And I was going to say, unfortunately, because if an owner facing foreclosure just gets these forged documents filed against them and the house is taken, and they just go, whoa, what? And they have to file a lawsuit and try to find an attorney. And that is proving almost impossible. It's very, very difficult to find either an attorney that really does know what they're doing and won't just cheat you. So, but the law states that they have to have complete, accurate, reliable documents before they can file this stuff. And so owners are successfully challenging that in court on wrongful foreclosure. It's wrongful. You don't have complete, reliable, and proof that you own the note and have the authority. It's all about the note and the authority to file. And that's all about really how they screwed up securitization. And in this case, this is now the Bank Bondi, this is another governor in Florida. The governor is saying that the Bank of America has been breaking the mortgage settlement. Duh, we already know this. They're dual tracking. They're not following the mortgage settlement, and she's considering filing a lawsuit like the New York Attorney General, Schneiderman. The fact is, as more and more of these AGs go, wait a minute, The mortgage settlement said blah, 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 said the same thing that the OCC said, that the consent judgment said in the district court, that National Mortgage Settlement said. They just continue doing it. And you and I know this. This is why we're meeting and fighting. But getting the AGs, and that makes me think right now of the AG here in California. And I want to tell you that I have now 3 times emailed my contacts, the prosecutors at the Attorney General's office, and I've not gotten a response. And I'm talking about all 6 of the people that theoretically are checking into this statewide grand jury. I've called the phone number and it doesn't work. So this is a private line. So I'm encouraging all of us to start clamoring for at the Attorney General's office, at our legislators, at anyone that will, the news media, anybody and anywhere you can, start clamoring for a statewide grand jury. And the link, I will put the link in this comments about what I sent to them, the 18 foreclosures. I have a 35-minute video. It's under the foreclosure defense. I will stick that in the comments section. It's right at the top, by the way, of the searchable document, the PDF library that I have for all of these shows and all the comments. It's right at the top. It says, this is what I sent the AG. I'll highlight that in red because this is really urgent. We need to make them move. And it's obvious I can't do this myself. We need to do this as a unit, as a united people in this state. And if everybody around in your neighborhood understood that if they went to the attorney generals and complained and marched and said, give us a statewide grand jury, it's truly the boots on the ground. It's the massive effort, the exposure of the fact is you already have this, you're not doing anything about it. Do something about it that we need to do. Freddie Mac is trying to increase transparency with release of raw mortgage data. I've read other articles where they're saying try to grab every data that you can because a lot of this stuff isn't true or it could help you in your defense. Again, I don't know enough to say more than that, but the fact is they're trying to get sold. They're trying to get themselves bought by private investors. And so they're trying to, they claim, standardize the process, make the raw data more easily accessible to the public. Any of you that have any chance to figure out what that means and how we can use it in fighting foreclosures, please do the research and come on the show. I just simply don't have enough time to do all the research. I want you guys to do research, and if you know something, you tell me so that we can get you on the show and so other people can listen to what you're saying, because right now there's just, you know, a few hundred of us paying attention. The fact is, at some point in time, this is going to explode too, and people are going to go back and read and listen to what we've been saying and doing and looking at these articles. This is going to explode. This is really the next phase of let's massive explode the awareness. Here's foreclosure crimes. I wanted to get this here because, of course, you and I all know that they're all robo-signing. Robo-signing is forgery and fraud on the recorded documents. And basically on 50 states, it's everywhere the same. It's on the assignments. Whether you're a judicial or non-judicial, it really doesn't matter. Everyone has an assignment. It's the assignments that they're lying on. And so in this particular link, there is a motion to strike based on the verified amended complaint as a sham and memorandum in support thereof. And so this is a sample that you can download and plug and play. Any help that we can get to people fighting foreclosure, we're trying to bring that to you. Things that really could be of help, because there's a whole lot of people saying a whole lot of stuff that ends up just cheating a whole lot of people, and out of money or time and losing the house. So the fact is, though, the shams, these assignments are shams. That is the point. They don't have the authority. It's all about they did not transfer the ownership of that note into the mortgage-backed security. They didn't. And in this particular case, they talk about it I think it was in this article or some other article, they talked about it as carelessness, or they didn't do a good job. And I would object to that characterization. I believe they intentionally did this because they wanted to use those notes as collateral in other lines of credit, other shadow banking. And so they said, I got an idea, nobody will know anyway. So we'll point the database, the MERS database, will point to that bank, but we'll actually keep the note. We're not going to actually assign the note over there. We'll keep that and we'll use that as collateral over here. They were double dipping from the beginning, and that was the point. That's why they wanted to use MERS, because they could manipulate the database. Well, gee, now it's this trust. Oh, gee, now it's that trust. Wink, wink, Where in the meantime, they actually had other collateral for, the $1 billion accounts that want some kind of collateralization for my shadow banking. This article talks about the fact that since they did not put these notes into those REMIC, a real estate mortgage investment conduit, that's what REMIC stands for, since they did not transfer those notes into it, which is the lack of standing claim that is working, since they didn't do this, those trusts do not have tax exemption. And this ties into, last week somebody suggested, either I talked about it on the air or I saw it in one of my emails, I'm sorry, I can't even remember now, filing the mortgage, the IRS whistleblower claim, the 211 forms. And I'm thinking that we should be doing that. It occurred to me, and I heard myself say, gee, I don't even have to be a participant. I could just file on every one of the wrong assignments that I have. We just have hundreds of them. Why don't we file a claim on each one of them? So there's something for somebody that has some more time than money coming in. File whistleblower claims. Tell me how that works. Share it with us how we would do that, because that is the point. These banks sold all of these trusts as if they were long-term investments, and so there was no taxes, and that was deferred, and obviously that's illegal. And I said that a year and a half ago. It was really obvious, all the different ways that they defrauded everybody. But birds do come home to roost. Now, this is something I really wanted to share, because we're talking about going local and growing the paradigm shift locally. And we've talked about local financing. So, this is where the public banking concept comes in. If our cities and counties actually took all of their assets, would they be enough? Many of them would be definitely enough, and others that didn't have enough, there's another workaround, like a municipal authority. But they could take those assets, they could capitalize a public bank, they could create credit, and all of that interest income flows back into the public's trough. It goes back into the general fund for the benefit of the public. That's one aspect, and I talked Friday about the Community Development Finance Institution, and these could be privately funded but for public benefit financing institutions. This is a way and so I see it as a way that you and I and our local communities, our family, friends, neighbors could opt out of the financing model from the mega banks, from the cartel, from the thugs, from the central banking system. Because if we have our own financing institutions set up and we're doing that, then they can collapse over there, whatever, but that's not going to hurt me. And if my payments are going back into a community-based model where all of the interest goes back into the community for the benefit of the community, then we've basically we've stopped the outflow of the interest, which is representative of our wealth and our time and effort. We've stopped that, cut that off, and we keep it for ourselves. And we build ourselves. It's like buying local, finance local, do things for the local good. In fact, there's someone I met at the banking conference shared with me that they are actually looking at everything, all the goods and services that the county that they are in, that they purchase. So they've gotten from the county a list of everything that they purchase. And then they're going down the list saying, well, we could provide that locally. We could provide this locally. We could do that locally. And so they are actually going to the county, go to the city, and say, you know, why are you acquiring this from China or from the Philippines or from some other state or some other county in this state? Why don't you acquire this from us? Why don't you go local? So an effort, I thought that was a fabulous idea, that we could take the purchases that our cities and counties are already doing, look down the list, and figure out how a local company, maybe it's a company you start. Oh, gee, look what's up on the screen. 1/3 of all states now have benefit corporation laws. And this is a time, this is a concept where legally the corporation can have as its goal something other than profits. So each state defines this corporate structure differently, and some require more rigorous reporting of an organization's social impact than others. However, in general, benefit corporations are purpose-driven corporations that focus on creating benefit for society rather than merely creating profit. And so here are the 3 major characteristics from a legal perspective. A requirement that the benefit corporation must have a corporate purpose to create a material positive impact on society and the environment. 2, an expansion of the duties of directors to require consideration of non-financial stakeholders as well as the financial interests of shareholders. And 3, an obligation to report on its overall social and environmental performance using a comprehensive, credible, independent, and transparent third-party standard. And so these are corporations established to benefit society. What a cool idea. What a way that the people, first, if you're setting up a corporation, or you know somebody that is, or what if we went into some corporations and said, become a benefit corporation instead? This is the growth. This is the grassroots shifting. Imagine if all the major corporations in your county were actually benefit corporations instead of just for profit. Because now what they've done here is allowed a legal framework so shareholders cannot sue the corporation saying, hey, you didn't maximize my profits, so you owe me. No, you've invested, little shareholder, into a corporation whose mission, whose legal structure is to benefit society. This, notice how different this is from what we just heard about Friday about the TPP, the trans partner plan, where literally the mega corporations want to have their own judicial system with their own attorneys sitting in as judges so that they can sue governments and government agencies for ruining their profits. That's where that's the shift. They want complete corporate profit control, but you and I, the people, we're going, hey, we could set up financing institutions, small ones that just finance local business in our community. They don't even have to be public banks. They could be private, non-profit, foundational type funding institutions for business in my city, in my community, in my county. So this is the grassroots effort. This is where the effort needs to be for what we're pushing at. We need to fight back, of course, and we need to massively get people aware. But people get really, really upset if all you give them is the horrible stuff, because they go, oh, I can't do anything, and then they get totally depressed. We don't want that. We don't need that. We want them to be aware. This is really scary, and it's scary. Some of the stuff is scary, but look at what we're doing, and this is my effort. Help me do this. Help me do this. Help me build a movement for a public bank, for nonprofit beneficial financing, for benefit corporations right here in my community, because what we've done is shifted our view, just like David said. He said that so well. You make this conversation so loud, everybody comes around and goes, oh my goodness, look at this is so fabulous. It's changed the game. That game over there starts to just die on the vine because nobody's playing. If we stop playing, this is withdraw. This is how we can withdraw non-violently. We stop playing and we come over here and we set up a new game that everybody wants to play in. It's a new game. This is great. It works for me. It benefits the community. Oh my goodness. That's the conversation. That's how I see one of the ways that we can do what David Icke was saying. And of course it's going to bugger the bankers. I'm so excited about that. And I'm feeling so positive about it myself, as you can tell. So thank you so much for joining us today. Let's bugger the bankers, the politicians, the bureaucrats, and let's change the game. And let's make everyone aware of the new game. See you tomorrow.
They taught me to fight for my civil rights, but it's always the same old story. The rich reign supreme while the poor can but dream under Labour or Liberal or Tory. And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians, bugger the bureaucrats too, bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you.
The system is bent and the money's all spent. We're badgered from every direction. The workers get taxed while the wealthy relax.
With nary a moment's reflection. When it's grass, there's muck, and they don't give an arse, 'cause they're programmed against insurrection. And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians, bugger the bureaucrats too, bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you. Now all you good people with passion to vent, don't give up the struggle for justice. But I've done my time on the protesters' line, and these days I show my dissent.